Okay, so for this video here, I just want to go over the VLOOKUP function that you're going to be covering on pages 45 and 46, the second half of chapter 2 that we're working with here. So this first problem that we're going to do here is the discount. We're trying to figure out what the discount is going to be. So what we want to do is we want to visually, we could look at this and say, okay, well, the discount category is A, so our discount is 10%. Easy enough. It's not typing, there we go. But if you could imagine, if this was a large document, again, hundreds of rows here, we wouldn't go through here and type these in ourselves. So what we want to do is that when the discount category is typed in here, the discount itself just plops right in here. So to do that, we're going to use what's called a lookup function. So under your formulas tab, if we go to lookup and references and go to VLOOKUP. Again, as I've mentioned in a lot of the other formulas, it's always good to use the argument box here because you can talk yourself through it. So the first thing we're going to do is look at the lookup value. So what is the value to be found in the first column of the table and can be a value, a reference, or a text string. So that might not help you a ton, but we're going to say, okay, the value that we want it to look up is going to be in cell CA. So look up what's in cell, not CA, sorry, I was looking at the letter C4. So look up the value in cell C4 and then compare it. We want it to compare it to this information right here. And what we can do is we can left click and choose it here, but you'll see that disk table comes in here. That's part of what you are going to be working with on page 45 and 46. They're having you create a range name. You don't have to do that. We could instead type in H4 through I8. We could do that as well. But again, this is already created for me, so that's why it's popping in there. Instead, you would not already have this created for you. This would be as part of the steps on page 45 as you get going here. So again, look up the value in C4, compare it to our table of information here, pull the data. So basically the column index number, if you read right here, is the column number in the table array for which the matching value should be returned. So the matching value that needs to be returned is in this column, column 2. This table is 2 columns, one column, column 1, column 2, not column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on. It's just we're counting the columns that are actually in the table itself. So we would type in a 2 here. So again, it's saying look up the value in C4, compare it to our table of information here. They refer to it as the table array, and then pull the data from column 2. We could have a table that has 3 columns or 4 columns, so we could say pull the data from column 3 or column 4. This just happens to only have 2 columns, so that's why we're putting in a column index number of 2. In the range lookup category here, the last thing you want to put in here, it tells you is if the range lookup is a logical value to find the closest match in the first column, true or omitted. So if we put nothing, it means it's going to find the closest match. If we want it to be an exact match, we have to type in false. We do want it to be exact because let's say instead of typing in A, B, C, D, E, somebody actually types in F or G. It'll just put whatever it wants to in there. So if somebody would type in an F or something else, it'll just say NA instead. So we want to type in false in here because we do want it to be an exact match. And we can see right here that it's already bringing our formula result of 10%, which is correct. A is in cell C4, and it shows the discount percentage of 10%. So that's correct. We can go ahead and click OK. And now I can copy this down the column. And a quick spot check would tell me that, yep, C is 14%, B is 12%, and so on. But let's test my theory before. As I mentioned, if I put an F in there, it brings back an NA. So that was, again, that false value that we, false that we typed in right here. False means it had to be an exact match. So by typing in an F here, there is no F here. So if there's not an exact match, it's going to put in an NA there instead. So I'll fix that to take it back again. So again, VLOOKUP, we're telling it to look up the value in this cell, compare it to our table array, our table of information, pull the information from column 2, and we want it to be an exact match. Click OK. So that's VLOOKUP for you. The last thing they're having you do here is figure out the discount and the net price. I'm sure you guys will be able to figure that out, but I'll go ahead and type this, and I just happen to know this, so we'll just go through it quick. So number 1, to figure out a discount, the first thing we'd have to do is multiply the list price times the discount. So we could do list price times discount, but that's only going to give us the actual discount. And that doesn't make any sense. So what we want to do here is we are going to put this in parentheses. Say, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is figure out the discount, and then we also need to subtract it from the actual list price. And it gives us a really weird percentage here. So it's picked up this percentage next to it. I'm going to go to the Home tab here and make that just a general number. So sometimes that'll happen. I'm actually glad it happened just now, because otherwise that can be confusing and you wonder why. Why is it giving it a percentage? Why was it 168%? Because it just was formatted incorrectly. So I'm going to take that back to a comma formatting, and then we'll copy that down the column there. So that's VLOOKUP for you. I hope that that makes sense. I'm going to stop this video before I go on to the if statements, just to keep them as 2 separate videos.